You ever get that feeling someone's trying to write you out of your own life? That was me, standing in my flip-flops, coffee in hand, watching the HOA president throw a full-on tantrum on my dock because I wouldn't give her guests the keys to my lake cabin. She was waving a clipboard like it was a badge, barking about community access and event priority. Meanwhile, I was just trying to enjoy my one weekend off in 3 months, listening to the loons call across the lake. The kicker? Her guests weren't even residents. They were her cousins from out of state. And the so-called event was a wine tasting party. She forgot to book space for, so naturally, she decided my property would do just fine. But here's the thing about people like Cheryl, the HOA queen bee. They don't take no as an answer. They take it as a challenge. I locked that door, and she locked her sights on me. What she didn't know was, I record everything. Every email, every phone call, every petty little violation notice she stuffed in my mailbox. And when she came for my keys, she didn't realize she'd just handed me the master plan. Stick around because what happened next? Let's just say, the locks weren't the only thing I changed. I bought the cabin 6 years ago. A fixer-upper tucked into the pines on a private access lake. Quiet. Old school. Off-grid vibes with just enough internet to check in with work if I absolutely had to. It was paradise. Until Cheryl got elected president of the Lakewood Pines HOA. At first, she seemed harmless. Graying bob, pastel cardigans, the kind of smile that didn't reach her eyes. But once she got a taste of power, she ran the HOA like a tiny kingdom, and we were her confused, unwilling subjects. She started small. Mandatory lawn height inspections, flowerbed aesthetic alignment, even fines for unsightly kayaks. Mine was blue. Apparently, it clashed with the natural tones of the shoreline. Still, I kept my head down, paid the dues, waved politely. Then came Memorial Day weekend. I had just arrived late Friday, cooler in hand, dog in tow, ready for 3 glorious days of fishing, reading, and absolutely zero interaction with humanity. That's when Cheryl marched down my dock, clipboard in hand, 3 strangers in tow. We're going to need the cabin this weekend, she said, as if it were a done deal. I blinked. I'm sorry, Mom, what? For the tasting event, she explained. Our normal venue double booked, so we're using yours. I laughed, thinking it was a joke. Yeah, no. This is my private property. Her eyes narrowed like I'd insulted her ancestors. You are part of the HOA, she said. And as president, I'm invoking Article 12, Community Event Requisition Clause. I stared. That's not a thing. She smiled. It is now. That was just the beginning. Saturday morning. I woke up to find event parking signs staked into my gravel drive. A folding table had been set up on my porch with a guest book and fake hydrangeas. No guests yet, but she was planning for them. I texted her. Remove your things from my property or I'll call the sheriff. Her response? A violation notice for unauthorized signage. Ironic. By noon, a couple in wine-tasting polos wandered up like they owned the place. Cheryl said this is the tasting cabin? I shut the door in their faces. Sunday morning, things got weird. Someone had unplugged my generator. Then I noticed sugar poured in my gas can. Coincidence? Monday, a formal HOA letter in my mailbox. Cheryl had opened an investigation into my aggressive behavior toward guests. It cited 6 fabricated complaints, including that I verbally threatened to release wildlife on attendees. The wildlife? My 14-year-old lab, Rufus. I'd had enough. I started filming. Quietly, without confrontation. Every stake in the ground. Every trespass. Every laugh from Cheryl's porch when another fake notice was taped to my door. Then she slipped up. A week later, I caught her on video instructing 2 young guys, her nephews, to test the cabin door for any weaknesses. Her words. I stepped outside, camera rolling. She looked startled, but covered it quickly. Just ensuring safety protocols. I smiled. Sure, smile for the camera. The color drained from her face. Later that night, she emailed me demanding I surrender the spare key to avoid legal consequences. She actually wrote that. That was it. I was done reacting. It was time to make Cheryl answer for all of it. Step 1. Gather evidence. I compiled everything: video footage, screenshots, signed delivery receipts of fake violation notices, and an HOA handbook with no mention of her imaginary. Article 12. Step 2. Call my lawyer. Turns out Cheryl was already pushing legal boundaries by entering my property without consent. The parking signs alone constituted trespassing. Step 3. HOA meeting. I requested to speak at the next open board meeting. Cheryl approved, assuming I'd fold under pressure. She didn't know I'd invited the county property assessor, the sheriff's deputy, and 3 other cabin owners she'd harassed. The meeting started like usual, Cheryl thanking everyone for coming together as a community. Then it was my turn. I brought a projector. First slide, the requisition clause that didn't exist. Second, video of her nephews trying to force my lock. Third, her email threatening me for a key. The room went quiet. Then I dropped the final slide, a map showing her own property boundaries and the community rules she personally violated by hosting 4 unregistered guests in her short-term rental. She tried to speak. I held up my hand. "Oh, one more thing," I said, pulling a new lock set from my bag. "Just replace the locks. With a camera system, too. Cheryl, if your guests need a place to party, they'll have to try your porch next time." The room erupted. The HOA vice president leaned over and whispered, "She's done." The board voted to suspend Cheryl's presidency effective immediately. She tried to argue, blaming technicalities and disrespectful attitudes. But when the sheriff's deputy calmly explained she could be cited for trespassing and harassment, she went pale. Her face tightened in a smile, but you could see the fury behind it. She stood, adjusted her cardigan, and left the meeting without a word. I was applauded, not just for standing up to her, but for being the first one brave enough to collect receipts. Within a week, the HOA launched a formal ethics review. Cheryl's cabin was flagged for multiple violations, including unregistered, short-term rentals, improper dock permits, and wait for it, hosting commercial events without insurance. Her little wine tastings? Yeah, those were quietly shut down. Her replacement as HOA president? A quiet, retired fire chief named Daniel who apologized to me in person. "Just trying to bring the neighborhood back to normal," he said. As for the locks, they're still on. Stainless steel, reinforced, with a sign that reads, "Private property, no community requisitions." Rufus still barks when he sees a clipboard. And me? I'm sleeping better than I have in years. There's something about people like Cheryl. They assume silence equals permission. That if you keep your head down, they can bulldoze your boundaries and call it community. But boundaries are the backbone of a healthy neighborhood. And no matter how entitled someone acts, they don't get to rewrite reality to suit their weekend plans. Sometimes justice isn't loud. It's quiet, collected, documented, and it shows up with a projector and a lockbox full of receipts. Would I do it again? Absolutely. Would I lend Cheryl a wine opener? Not even if it was a twist-off. So here's my question to you. Have you ever had to deal with someone who thought they owned more than they did? Drop your story in the comments. I read every single one. And hey, if you made it this far, comment "justice served" so I know you're one of the real ones. Until next time, keep your doors locked, your cameras rolling, and your wine cold. Because sometimes, the best view on the lake is watching karma paddle by.